Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host as always, Daniel Levi, your co-host Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC 216, Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee. And Shaq, we've been waiting for this fight for a while, and finally it's going to go down this Saturday night in Vegas.
Yeah, man, all the trash talk's finally going to be over. Tony Ferguson on a 9-fight win streak against one of the top. Well, I mean, he is the top prospect at 155 as far as I'm concerned. Now he's a contender, and he's in there fighting for the belt and Kevin Lee. And I'm interested to see if, the boogeyman can drown him, or is Kevin Lee just that strong on top?
So, before we break down that fight, I got to ask you, who won the war of words between the two?
The war of words, man, I'm going to have to go with Kevin, man, honestly. I mean, when they were, after his win over Chiesa on the Fox Sports studio, I mean, I thought he completely owned him. Tony wasn't making any sense at all. I mean, and, it's probably due to the way Tony fights. I mean, the guy is probably permanently concussed. I mean, he takes a lot of shots. But I mean, none of that matters, though. But I think Kevin Lee won the better of that.
Kevin's low-key one of the best trash talkers in the game, man.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think he's very marketable. It's unfortunate that, they chose Alvarez to coach Tough, because it would have been really interesting to see Kevin Lee and Gaethje. But, I mean, he got the title shot instead, so.
And another example of that is they could have totally used him instead of Uriah Faber to do Dana White Tuesday Night Contender with Snoop Dogg. Imagine Snoop Dogg and Kevin Lee in the booth together, dude.
Yeah, that would have been a sight to see, but I'm pretty sure it's probably because of the marijuana factor. But it is what it is.
What about the marijuana factor?
I mean, Kevin probably doesn't want to be around that, and Faber's retired, and that's what I'm assuming.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying, and we're allowed to talk about things like that nowadays because as of yesterday, marijuana has been decriminalized in Atlanta.
Yeah, man, it's one of the best days that has ever happened in the city. I mean, ever since I dabbed into this great plant called weed, it's always been a little sketchy, around here. You get in trouble, you go to jail with when you get caught with weed, and now we can walk up and down the street smoking weed, so it's all good now.
Yeah, it's just awesome that people don't look down on it anymore. And, for example, my parents, they've never even tried weed. You know what I mean? Where they grew up, weed is viewed like cocaine or crack, and it's like the stigma behind it. So now that, it's decriminalized, it's a big deal, man.
It's a huge deal, man. Obviously my family still would prefer me not smoke it, but hey, I can't get in trouble. I can't get in trouble for this anymore. I've gotten in trouble for it in the past, and, I'm past that now, and it's unfortunate that this couldn't have been passed earlier, because then I wouldn't have gotten in trouble, but hey, it is what it is, and now I can smoke in peace.
Yeah, and a rapist gets parole, but a guy that, smoking a blunt in his car has to do eight months. It just shows that we live in such primitive times, but, that it's starting to be behind us. I'm saying starting because, we're not going to get too much into it, but what's going on in the world today. But now, at least that's one step in the right direction.
100%.
And you know what else is a step in the right direction? We got some money to make, man, because look, Brad Tavares, he's minus 200. He's taken on Taleus, who's plus 170. And, we got a lot of respect for Brad Tavares. He came through for us against Elias Theodorou, a plus 150 dog there. And in the past, even when we've bet on him, for example, against Tim Boesch, that didn't work out, but it seems like he's turned a corner, man. He's won 3 of his last 4 fights, with the only loss coming to the current champion, Robert Whittaker, and he's only 29 years old. That's the thing I keep forgetting about this guy. When I think of Tavares, I'm like, he's been in the UFC forever, but he's not even 30 years old yet. But Shaq.
This guy's been in the UFC forever. I mean, I remember when I saw him fight live against Phil Baroni way back in the day at UFC 125 when he was fresh off the Tough Show. And, I mean, when we were betting Brad Tavares against Elias Theodorou, what was our main factors? We knew that Brad Tavares could keep up with him in the cardio department. We felt that we had the better striking, and we felt that Elias couldn't take us down or hold us down. And what happened in the fight? That's exactly what happened. And I think the same thing's going to happen here, man. I think Elias is a way tougher opponent than Taleus. in my honest opinion, just due to the fact that Elias can keep a pace that a lot of middleweights can't keep up. And Brad outlasted him in the cardio department. He beat him on the feet. He beat him on the mat. And, I mean, he beat him in every aspect. And, I think maybe the perception of Tavares in the past has been, oh, man, this guy got knocked out by Bosch, or, man, he got starched by Rob, which are all respectable, man. I mean, hey, flukes happen from time to time. I mean, it happens. Like Patrick Williams once beat Alejandro Perez.
Well, real quick, just so the fans don't give us too much shit, the fluke you're referring to was the Bosch fight, not the Whitaker fight.
Yeah, for sure. The Bosch fight, when, I mean, Brad was kicking the shit out of him, and then all of a sudden he got caught, and, things happen from time to time. But, I mean, Elkins just knocked out Mirsad Bektik the other day, so things happen, and I think he's way past that. I just love his overall game. The guy's super efficient with his energy, and Taleus isn't. Taleus is that type of guy, he comes out, when he's fighting guys like Trevor Smith or, Chris Camozzi or Sam Alvey, he'll put on a good performance just because what do all three of those guys have in common? They don't move. They're not very good in the cardio department. And, I mean, Camozzi can't get off his back to save his life. Alvey doesn't move. And Trevor Smith, he's what we like to refer to as a jobber. And I just think Brad's going to piece him up on the feet, man. Land the bigger shots, stuff the takedowns. Tavares' entries on his takedowns are not very good at all. As you saw in the Gegard Mousasi fight, as you saw in the Jocko fight, he got one against Jocko, but then after Jocko worked his way back up to his feet, he didn't sniff another one. Jocko beat him in the wizard department, beat him in the wrestling, smashed him on the mat, and smashed him on the feet. When Taleus gets tired, everything completely goes out the window. He's that type of guy that'll pull a half guard when he's tired. And he's going to give Brad that top position, and we're going to beat him on the feet. We have the way better cardio, and it's going to be a easy 30-27.
Like I mentioned earlier, Brad's come a long way. He's only 29 years old. And one thing I really like about his game is when he gets taken down, he immediately scrambles up to his feet, and he's got unbelievable posture. You always see him tripoding up, and that's stuff that you see guys like DC doing. So, if you watch the fight with Yoel Romero, he got up from the takedowns of Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero had him in side control, and Brad Tavares used the proper get-up game, the proper technique. He got up to his feet, and he kept fighting. And, I mean, look, that's the #1 guy on planet Earth, Yoel Romero. Now we're taking on Taleus Leites, who hasn't been the same since his fight with Bisping. Look, the Bisping fight, that was like his last hurrah. He went 5 hard rounds. He gave it everything he got. Some people thought he won. Others thought he lost. But bottom line, it was like, wow, what a fight. But after that, he was never the same. The Mousasi fight. It's one thing to lose to a respectable opponent like Mousasi. It's another thing when the left side of your face is drooping and no one recognizes you anymore. And that's exactly what happened to Taleus Leites in that fight. Then his fight with Jocko, and before that fight, we picked Jocko, but we were saying stuff like, as long as Jocko keeps the fight standing, we'll be good. If he takes it to the ground, oh shit. Well, it was Jocko who was taking Leites to the ground. He was taking him down with ease, busting him up, passing his guard. And at this point, I really do think that Taleus is on the downside of his career. He's not the guy who was on that big win streak, knocking out Carmone, head-arm triangling Tim Bosch, which, he did get his ass whooped that first round. Let me remind you, it's not that same guy anymore. Like you said, Shaq, if he can, just coast and go out there and get an easy win against a Chris Camozzi or a Sam Alvey, then it is what it is. But Brad Tavares is not that guy, especially Brad Tavares right now. The way he gets off on his leg kicks, his size for the division, his posture, his takedown defense, I think he's got what it takes. Now, personally, I like to underestimate these odds makers, Shaq, and I was like, yeah, they might give us plus 110. I mean, I was like, dude, if they gave us plus 150 against that guy Elias, they'll give us plus 110 against the guy that went the distance with Anderson Silva. But hey, much respect, minus 185. You guys got it right, but I don't feel like I'm losing value. So for that reason, I'm putting him in a 4-unit parlay with someone later on the card, and I think he's going to win a comfortable decision, you know? And it's one of those things where we're thinking about what's the worst case scenario. Well, when Brad has lost fights, he has gotten caught, you know, against Whitaker, against Bush. But those guys are known for knocking people out, you know, throughout their UFC careers. That's not what Taleus Letus is known for. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The only way we lose this fight is by a fluke KO. We're not going to get taken down. We're going to stuff all of his shots. He's going to gas himself out trying to get us down. And, you know, I put it in a 2-unit open parlay. I'm going to close it out next week in Poland, and I think it's going to be good, easy money, man.
Yeah, you know, I'm actually closing it out on this card with the very next fight. But I completely understand why you are, and I know who you're closing it out with, and I will be taking that. I will be with you as there, my friend. But let's get down to business here because, look, Magomed Bibulatov. Currently he's minus 525. The comeback on the vet, the very respected vet, John Moraga, is plus 410. And, you know, I got to say, I've always been a fan of John Moraga. You know, what I like about him, win or lose, is that he comes to fight. You know, he's not one of these guys that's going to hump your leg and make the crowd boo. You know, he'll throw down. Unfortunately for him, he's been fed to the wolves from day one. You know, you go from fighting Ulysses Gomez. At the very next fight, you're fighting Demetrius Johnson. You know what I mean, Shaq? It's just one of those things where, you know, it was actually Chris Carriasso next. But you know what I'm saying, Shaq? It's one of those things where they're putting him in there with those guys and then DJ. But then they'll give him Willie Gates and Ashkan Mokhtarian. There's no in between. He didn't really have that chance to, you know, start from the bottom, work his way up. They just gave him 2 cans and then fed him right to Demetrius. But bottom line, the guy's been in there with the Sharks of the division. He's a very tough guy. He will hold his spot in the roster. That being said, when you talk about a guy like Magomed Bibulatov, you're talking about a guy that could be potentially challenging Demetrius Johnson or whoever the champ is at the time very, very soon, Shaq. It could be his next fight. It could be in 2 fights. Magomed Bibulatov, look, he's one of these Russians that's extremely well-rounded. With him, it's more of a focus on the striking. But don't get me wrong, just because he can throw big spinning kicks, just because he can catch you off guard with an uppercut, doesn't mean he can't go in there and blast W and grind out the fight as well. Bibulatov is as well-rounded as it gets, and I truly believe this will be a 3-round domination. But that being said, Shaq, it's always scary when you're betting on undefeated fighters. And you know the reason, because everyone has to take that first loss. That being said, I do not believe this will be Bibulatov's first loss. I think he's going to go out there, make another statement, and be 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. So I took him at the opener, which was $1 less of the current minus 525. I took it at minus 425, and as you heard earlier, I closed it out with the minus 185 Brad Tavares. So yeah, it's 4 units to win 3.6 units. Let's get it.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. John Moraga, 500 fighter, tough vet. But I mean, when he goes against in these spots where he's the gatekeeper, you know, like when he fought Sergio or when he fought Mateus Nicolau, what happened? I mean, the Mateus fight, you know, it was close, but in the 3rd round, he gave up a key takedown. The Benavidez fight, he got taken down. The Dotson fight, he ended up getting knocked out. I mean, this is a guy that's tough, but I mean, I feel like he's already reached his potential, man. Magomed Bibulatov, super well-rounded, throwing the flashy kicks on the feet, better striking. And what I think this fight comes down to, I just think that, honestly, Moraga's going to be intimidated by him. I feel like Moraga's already a guy that has a tendency to not pull the trigger and not let it go in his fights, just like the Mateus fight, just like the Benavidez fight, just like the Dotson fight. And I think it's going to be the same thing here. The guy was already talking about retirement before his last fight against Ashkan. And I think you're already thinking about retirement. Now you're fighting an undefeated Russian. I had to take that. I took it at minus 460, but I'm very confident. I think we beat him on the feet, but I'm very confident that we can take him down whenever we want to and win a decision. But I wouldn't be surprised with the finish. But like you said, every now and then, sometimes these vets show the prospects a lesson. But Magomed's very experienced. The guy's been the 5-round distance. He's won a belt in the World Series of Fighting, and I think he's very experienced for him being at this stage in his career. He's training with Frankie Edgar and, you know, those guys down there at send his teammate Zabit just had a good debut, so I think he's gonna get the job done.
I do as well. And next up in the heavyweight division, we got Walt Harris. He's currently minus 310. The comeback on Mark Godbeer is plus 255. And I got to tell you what, Shaq, Walt Harris has come a long way, man. You know, there was one point when I was kind of writing him off, but I think he's putting it together. I think he turned a corner. I think the Cody East fight was the first time where he kind of felt like, you know what, I do belong here. And he went out there. He knocked him out in the first round. I know that Jared Rosholt fight, he had a close back and forth fight, but after that, things weren't materializing inside the octagon. You know, he took a regional scene fight. He came back, and ever since then, he's won 3 of 4 with the one loss being a very controversial split decision where not a lot of action happened, which I gotta, I gotta elaborate on is if you're betting on Walt Harris, the thing you gotta look out for is sometimes he has lack of inactivity. But when he decides to let it go, look out, because this guy, I mean, that 3-2 he throws is serious. And then I found out he's training with boxing champion Deontay Wilder, and now it makes sense. I mean, because when this guy lets it go, it's truly something to behold. He's vicious with it, and the last 3 or 4 fights, like I said, that he's won, he's been knocking dudes out in the first and second round. The one guy he knocked out in the second round, Chase Sherman, who's proven to be a very durable and tough guy himself. It was just a matter where if you look at Chase Sherman's style, he does like to he likes to hit and run. You know what I mean? He kicks and he runs. That's his style. But with Godbeer, he likes to charge forward. And those are the kind of guys that Walt Harris has been able to put away early. So I looked at the under here. And, actually shout out to the MMA Prophet. He let me know about this, the under in this spot. And, I saw it before, but he kind of brought it to my attention like, dude, there's a lot of value here because at minus 105 for an under 1.5 where Walt Harris, all but one of his wins have been in the first round by knockout, and all of his wins are via knockout. And the one time he went over a round and a half was due to the fact that his opponent kind of runs a little bit. Mark Godbeer comes right at you and he brawls. He ducks his head down. He telegraphs his shots. I think this is the perfect spot for Walt Harris to get a first-round KO. And, initially I wasn't in the Walt Harris business, but when I went back and I looked at the career progression, the guy really has come a long way, and he really does have a lot of potential. And now that he's starting to believe in himself and he's starting to let it go, he could be a force to be reckoned with. Now, obviously, it's heavyweight. Anyone could go down. So let's say Godbeer puts him down in the first. That'll still cover me with that under 1.5. Now, it is sketchy. They are heavyweights. Let's say they hug each other for 3 straight rounds. That's why I only put 1.6 units on it. I'm not going big on this. However, I do think this is an opportunity and a good stylistic matchup. Because you watch that fight between Mark Godbeer and Daniel Spitz. Like I said earlier, Spitz's style is to run away. And that's not that's not what Mark Godbeer is going to do here against Walt Harris. So I think this is the perfect spot to catch Mark Godbeer for a first-round KO. So I got Walt Harris, but my play here is 1.6 units on the under 1.5 at minus 105, Shaq.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. The under is always a good move in a heavyweight fight. Either guy could get knocked out. Yeah, I like the matchup for Harris. He's got that nice southpaw style, the left kick, the straight left. The Darren Till plan is what I like to call it. Yeah, man, I see Godbeer charging forward. Trying to make it ugly, trying to clinch him up, tie him up against the fence, wear him out, and possibly seeking out a knockout. But I think Walt will somewhere catch him with a straight left. But I understand that. I definitely understand that underplay, and I hope it works out for you.
I appreciate it, man. So this one, I'm very excited about this fight, man, because look, we got Lando Vannata. He's minus 220. The comeback on Bobby Green is plus 180. I mean, anytime these two step inside the UFC's octagon, it's pandemonium, man. These two are going to throw down most likely till one guy falls, unless they're both durable enough to go the 3-round distance. And to me, this fight comes down to, how old is Bobby Green? Because Bobby Green in his prime, man, you don't fuck with Bobby Green. You know, he puts his hands down, he taunts you, and you still can't hit the guy. You know what I'm saying? And he was really one of the most exciting guys to watch in his time. I know people don't like him because he taunts a lot, but I like that shit, man. I like it when I got plus 250 on him against Josh Thompson, and Josh is throwing a head kick, and Bobby's brushing his shoulders off. You know, that kind of shit is entertaining. That's why I liked Anderson Silva. All those antics are fun to watch, especially when the guy's winning. But Bobby has slowed down a lot. He has had a lot of surgeries, and it has Lando caught up to the point now where he can put a guy like Bobby Green away, because Bobby in his prime, I think he really goes out there and tools Lando. With Lando, it's a matter of the seasoning. You know, they threw him to Tony Ferguson in his UFC debut, but then they put him in there with a guy past his prime, such as John Makdessi. It was an easy first-round KO. Then you put him in there with another young, hungry guy, such as David Timur. Was it a matter of Timur wasn't as good as we thought he was, or is Lando simply not ready for this level? I don't want to say that, you know, considering his KO of John Makdessi. I mean, that was unbelievable. So this fight's going to be super telling, man, because we know Bobby, even though Bobby's still great, the thing with that style is, just like Anderson Silva, just like Roy Jones, when you rely on your reflexes, your instincts, and your speed, speed is the first thing to go. That's why those power hitters, they got the power till the day they die, but the speed guys, you know, one day they look like King of the World, the very next day they're getting knocked out by Chris Weidman, who's not a knockout artist. So is Bobby Green at that point? I don't know. Plus 180 is tempting, because if Bobby Green shows up, I think he could school Lando. That being said, if Bobby does not show up, if he comes out here looking old, I think he could get KO'd viciously. So, shit, man, I really don't know. It's about who shows up. I'm rooting for Bobby here, so I hope he gets it done, Shaq.
Yeah, like you said, Bobby in his prime was a beast, a guy that relied on his instincts, on quick movements. And matter of fact, one of my first bets ever was Bobby Green versus Pat Healy way back in the day. And, you know, Bobby won that nice little 30-27 on 2 cards. And I was a little worried when I went to the cards, but he got the job done. And but yeah, man, you know, Lando Vannata, I think the guy could actually be really good, man. I think his fight with Timur was more of a case where people didn't realize how good Timur was, because I know he did slow down after the first round, but there was no question of heart. There was no question of quitting at all. Like, Lando pushed through 3 rounds hard. It was just that Timur simply showed up that night, and Timur was a lot better than people thought. And Bobby, look, when's the last time Bobby has shown up for a fight? Like, look, I know that Bobby in his prime is a top 10 fighter. The thing is, people would say, oh, well, he showed up against Rashid and went to split decision, but we know the way Rashid fights. Rashid fights in that little sparring, like he's in a little sparring session, and that's why it was so close. And if we're being honest here, Bobby didn't want a round of that fight. The thing is, Bobby, like we said, he's had that ACL surgery. He's had a torn quad surgery, a hamstring surgery. And, I mean, I think he's pulled out of, like, 7 or 8 fights within the last year and a half. I mean, the guy, it's unfortunate because I really like the guy. He's on his way out. And I think this is make or break for him. So the guy has his back against the wall, so he might show up, but I don't think he is. I think Lando's going to come out here touching him up, and Bobby's going to be talking. And, you know, something similar, remember in the Poirier fight when he was talking to Dustin and he was putting his hands down and talking shit, and Dustin ended up throwing like a double hook and he ended up getting caught with a punch he didn't see. I kind of see something like that's happening. Like, I see him talking, and I see Lando catching him with something that he doesn't see, something flashy. But hey, if this fight gets into the 2nd and 3rd rounds, I could see Bobby tying him up, working him against the fence, possibly grinding out a split decision. But I can't bet on Bobby for the reasons. I think he's old. His body's not the same. His confidence level ain't the same. And, I mean, this guy's got a lot of stuff outside the octagon. I've heard him say things like he's got a bunch of baby mama drama. I heard he switched camps. I mean, the guy's just got a lot of turmoil in his life. So I'm going to go with Lando. And I'm going to actually go Lando by finish.
Man, it's going to hurt if that happens, dude. It's going to hurt to see.
Yeah.
The fight game.
The fight game takes no prisoners, man. But Bobby's used to be one of my favorite fighters, man. It's unfortunate, that the body gives up on people at times. But I mean, remember this guy's debut against Volkman, and everyone at the time wanted to see Volkman get his ass whooped. And Bobby went out there and he did it for everybody. And I know the UFC was very happy about that, as they cut Volkman right after that.
Yeah, Volkman got his ass whooped so bad he called out Obama. But so Will Brooks, he's minus 365, and Nick Lentz is plus 305. Now, man, you and I have been talking about this fight a lot, and on paper, I mean, Will Brooks has all the attributes physically to get this done. It's just mentally, man. But at the same time, does Nick Lentz, even if Will Brooks isn't on mentally, does Nick Lentz have enough left in the tank? I know he's got an 11-5 UFC record. He's a winner. But, man, Mike Dolce did a number on Nick Lentz.
Yeah, man. It's another thing how we were just talking about Bobby, where the body gives up on you. And it's the same thing that's happening with Nick Lentz. And, a lot of guys think Lentz is a gimmick. But, I mean, he thinks he's a politician, and I don't know what he's on Twitter these days, but the guy's always talking about Trump and a whole bunch of bullshit. And the thing is, the guy's 11-5 in the UFC. The guy wins fights. Like, it's actually he actually has kept his spot in the company since like 2007 or 8. I mean, the guy wins fights. And Will Brooks, I mean, like you said, physically, he looks like a specimen. But to be honest, man, when I watched the tape on the guy, it really wasn't anything to be impressed about. I think he's athletic. I think he's physical, but skill-wise, he's not very fast, to be honest. I mean, it's of course you can look fast when you're fighting guys like, old Ross Pearson or Dave Jensen or Marcin Held or, Tiger Sarnovsky. But when I really looked at it, he really ain't that fast. He's strong. He took down Alex Cowboy a couple times. But I'm going to tell you the difference between these two. The difference between these two is toughness. Nick Lentz got fully mounted by Islam Makhachev and got pounded on. But Nick Lentz didn't quit. Alex Cowboy got full mount on Will Brooks, and Will quit. Will quit after the first round. Will went in his corner and he told his corner, "Oh, I feel like shit. Like, this ain't my ribs broken." Like, I don't think Nick Lentz would have ever done that. Nick Lentz, that guy is super tough, but it's just unfortunate that his body's giving up on him. Mike Dolce, I don't know what he did to his body, but Lentz ain't the same guy. Nick Lentz is a D1 wrestler. He used to, get in there, take guys down, and just make them quit. Like, remember this guy's fight against Hakran way back in the day when Hakran was on like a 20-fight win streak, and Nick Lentz straight up broke him, or the Diego Nunes fight when Nick Lentz broke him, or, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I think Will Brooks will get this one. I just think, like we said, how much does Nick have left in the tank? His body just cannot. I just don't think his body can keep up, and I just think this fight comes down to strictly physicality. Like, I just don't think that Nick Lentz's body can hold up for the 3.
So that being said, you think Will Brooks is going to finish the fight?
No, I think Will Brooks will win a 30-27 decision. I think Lentz might fight tough for the first round, but I think his bloated body will just give out on him. And it'll just, I mean, like, look, if you go watch his body for the Chad Mendes fight, if you guys listen to this, pull up his body for the Chad Mendes fight when he was in the best shape of his life, where if he would have won that fight, then, he would have been in the title picture or close up there. And then you look at his body for the Danny Castillo fight, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what happened? Like, it's a complete night day difference. And, he stopped working with Mike Dolce. And I just think I think he's got more left in the tank. I think he's going to be a lot more confident because he's fighting an old teammate, a guy that he knows really well, as well. Nick probably knows him very well. And I just think he's going to be a lot more confident. I think in the Oliveira fight or the Alex Cowboy fight, maybe he was questioning himself a little bit. And we know he is a little bit of a front runner, a little bit of a mental midget. But I mean, I don't think he's going to have those mental issues for this fight. I think he's going to come in confident. But not to mention, man, Charles Oliveira blast doubled Will Brooks with ease. I know Charles Oliveira didn't blast double Nick Lentz.
He finished him twice, though.
True. But the first one was illegal as fuck. I actually just watched it the other day. But
like, he was well on his way to winning the fight. But yeah it doesn't matter because DuBronx finished Will Brooks, so, you know. Exactly. So this one, man, I mean, this could be fight of the night. This could be performance of the night. We got Tom Duquesnoy. He's minus 165. The comeback on Cody Stamen is plus 145. And, dude, both guys, I believe, are 15-1. I mean, talk about I love matchups like this because, you know, people like to talk about how the UFC are protecting people. But, you know, someone's 15-1 record is not being protected here.
For sure, man. This might be the fight I'm looking forward to the most. You know, initially I was saying, you know, I was going to take that shot on Cody Stamen before the lines even opened, when we actually interviewed him a month or so ago. And, you know, as I got closer, I was like, man, I'm probably going to pass. Because when I watched that tape on Tom, the Fire Kid, man, he's got that Gaethje style, man. The guy just walks forward. He gets tagged repetitively, even on his local scene fights against like Brandon Loughnane, in which I think Loughnane won that fight, or against a couple other guys. I mean, guys tag him, and he stumbles, but he just keeps walking forward like the Terminator. And these guys like break. But, you know, Cody Stamen, I bet on him in his debut against Tyrion Werdum, minus 270. And I bet on him because, I mean, on the local scene, he showed me how well-rounded he was. He fought tough guys like, you know, Sharapov or a couple other. He fought guys with winning records on the local scene, just put it that way. And the guy can kick, he can punch, and he can wrestle. And, I mean, the cardio that he showed in that Tyrion Ware fight, and he said he took that fight on 2 weeks' notice, off the couch, up a weight class. And now, man, I gave in, man. I took that shot at plus 150, only one unit. But I took that shot because I'm not trying to have no regrets. Because I honestly think Cody's going to win the fight. I think Tom Duquesnoy is a top-notch prospect, but he's got too many holes in the striking game. I think he's going to be relying on a knockout punch, which it could happen. If he knocks Cody out, then props to him. But I think Cody has too many advantages in this fight. I think he has the cleaner technique on the feet. I think he's got the more efficient style, the better wrestling, and I think he can push harder for 3 rounds. That wrestling is going to be the key to this fight. Patrick Williams took Duquesnoy down, even though it was briefly. Patrick Williams is arguably the worst fighter on the UFC roster. And I mean, and Patrick Williams was panicking like 2 minutes into that fight. Cody ain't going to panic. Cody actually got tested in his debut against a way cleaner striker, in my opinion, than Tyrion Ware, who put pressure on him. And every time he got hairy, Cody put him on his back. And I think the same thing's going to happen here. I think it's going to be a little tougher. I think at some point we probably will get rocked. But I think Cody will win 2 rounds and win a decision here, man. But the winner of this fight, props to them because this is a super tough fight, man. And I had to take that underdog shot on Cody Stamen because those advantages that I mentioned earlier. And I think the kid is really going to be a top 15 guy in the future.
Well, I sincerely wish you the best of luck because I do not have a play here. But, man, it's going to be interesting because Tom Duquesnoy, you know, he's like the French Thomas Almeida, man. I mean, you can hit him with everything but the kitchen sink, unless you're Cody Garbrandt, right?
I wouldn't even go that far because his technique isn't the same as Almeida. Almeida throws clean technique, but yeah, Almeida, if you're saying like, yeah, they both get tagged and keep moving forward because Tom's a little sloppy, man.
Yeah, you know, the reason I wouldn't compare him to Gaethje is because it's not like he tries to chop the tree down with the leg kicks. But at the same time, it's the same approach that Gaethje and Almeida have where they keep walking forward. You know what I mean? And they'll take whatever you throw at them, and then they take you out, man. And with Duquesnoy, it's very fun to watch. You know, I was expecting him to be a big favorite, but leading up to this, everyone was talking about how they're going to pick Stamen. So kind of got me a little scared here, man. Now with Stamen, obviously, like you mentioned, he mixes it up very, very well. But what I'm wondering here is, So let's say they go out there and he takes down Duquesnoy a couple times. Duquesnoy keeps getting back up. Is Stamen going to eventually gas? And there is where Duquesnoy can tee off on, one of his 30-strike combinations. That's why I'd be worried to pick Stamen here, man, because he could be doing good for so long, and Duquesnoy is going to keep coming forward the entire time, man.
Yeah, the thing is why I actually don't. I think he can because, like we said before, the guy took a fight, a weight class up with a kind of a similar style in Ware, even though Ware doesn't have the same takedown defense. Terran Ware puts super pressure on you, and he's got way cleaner punches. Duquesnoy walks forward with his hands down, chin up in the air, and he's really looking to load up on an elbow. And I just think, and he stands really upright. And I think we can beat him on the feet as well. Obviously, I want him to use the wrestling more, but I think Cody's got the better punching technique, the better kicking technique, the better wrestling, and I think he can keep up that pace. He's cutting down to 135 this time, so I know he had to diet the whole camp. And I've been keeping up with him on Instagram, and the guy's in shape. He had that full camp. This ain't a 2-week notice fight. And Tom ain't fighting Pat Williams.
When Sean Shelby says that Cody Stamen reminds him of Jimmy Rivera, that right there, I'm not betting against this kid. I got to see for myself, though, because, as much as I respect Sean Shelby's opinion, he's been wrong before. He did say Robbie Peralta was the dark horse of the featherweight division once upon a time. So, but this kid is 15-1, and he mixes it up so well. Any imminent danger on the feet, he changes levels, takes you down on the ground. And I do know and do think that Duquesnoy is eventually going to get caught soon. I just don't think this is going to be the time. I'm going to go with Duquesnoy. I think somewhere along the way, he's going to find a way to knock out Cody Stamen. I hope I'm wrong, so you cash your bet, but I'm going to go with Duquesnoy here. Now, next up, Beneil Dariush. Benny, he's minus 235. The comeback on Evan Dunham is plus 195. Now, I really, truly believe that Beneil turned a corner since the Chiesa fight. If you watch the Bruce Buffer introductions in that fight, he's smiling. He thinks it's a joke. For some reason, when people are fighting Chiesa or when they're fighting Bisping, everyone thinks it's a joke for some reason. And Benny thought it was a joke. He was lighting him up early, and he gassed a little bit, which he tends to do from time to time. And, man, when Chiesa takes your back, it's funny. Chiesa took his back, got a face crank. It wasn't even locked in under the chin all the way. It was a face crank. And, Benny's smiling, and he's like, yeah, this guy ain't gonna choke me out. But Chiesa's grip is so strong that, it was too late, and it was like, oh, shit, I got to tap. And ever since then, I truly believed he's turned a corner. He goes out there. He defeats James Vick. One does not simply defeat James Vick, let alone knock out James Vick. He goes out there, defeats Rashid Magomedov. One does not simply defeat Rashid Magomedov, let alone 30-27 Rashid Magomedov in the Mexico City elevation. And the fight was mostly contested standing. Then he goes out there and, we can talk about the end result, which I'll get to in a second. He outstrikes Edson Barboza for 7.5 minutes of a fistfight in Brazil. And then he got caught with a devastating flying knee, which sucks, But the thing here is, man, people like to talk about he got his life changed. Will he be the same? Do you remember when Latifi fought Ryan Bader?
Yeah.
That was one of the most devastating knockouts I've ever seen in my life. You remember when Dan Henderson fought Bisping the very first time, UFC 100?
Yeah.
That was even more devastating. One of the most devastating knockouts in my life. There's some guys that are mentally weak, and there's some guys that aren't. The guys that are mentally strong, they bounce back from those losses. And I truly believe that's what Beneil Dariush is going to do. I mean, look, Latifi, he came back against Tyson Pedro, and it looked like he didn't even get knocked out. And that was one of the most devastating knockouts I've ever seen last year. And with Michael Bisping, I mean, people, he could have arguably retired after UFC 100. That KO was so brutal. Now he's holding the UFC middleweight belt. So, it's one thing if a guy gets knocked out 5 times, then we start talking like, one more to, he's going to be in a retirement home pretty soon. But in Benny's case, I think he simply got caught. He was looking the best he's ever looked. He's going to continue to evolve. And he's coming back against a guy that, as much as I respect Dunham, he's as tough as they get. He's definitely evolved over the years. He's a solid gatekeeper. I think Dunham's going to be simply too slow here, and I truly believe that Beneil can outstrike him for 3, or he can knock him out, man. I mean, they're going to be exchanging hard. Benny's feeling more confident than ever in his strikes, and he lets it go with multiple punch combinations. He follows up with his kicks. He's got very, very heavy kicks, man. And even when his takedowns get stuffed, like they did against Michael Johnson, he still finds a way to win. And also, against Edson Barboza, his takedowns got stuffed until the very last one. He was winning that fight, man. I think this is a different scenario. I don't think that Evan Dunham possesses the the athleticism of Edson Barboza. I don't think he's going to be flying through the air with a double knee with that kind of timing, with that kind of reaction. The only thing is, with Benny, I mentioned this earlier, the guys that he loses to are guys that he's way better than. Besides Barboza, Ramsey, Michael Chiesa. I mean, come on, Benny's way better than both those dudes. But, man, he lost to both of them. So, it's one of those things. He's way better than Dunham, but he could lose. It's still a fight. But he does tend to come back strong after a loss. I believe he's going to do that here. And I truly believe his last 3 fights in particular, he turned a big corner. And they got him ranked number 12. I think he's a top 5 talent in the UFC lightweight division. So, I'm going to go with Beneil Dariush here. It's minus 235 currently. I'm thinking about a play, man. I'm just not sure what to play it with. I don't want to force it with anything else on this card. Potentially, I'm going to leave it open. We're going to play it by ear, but the pick is Beneil Dariush.
Yeah, man, I actually think this is going to be a tough fight, man, because like you said in the past, the dudes that Beneil loses to are the guys that wear him down, and I feel like Dunham has that wear down type of style. I agree, Benny brings a different level of violence a different level of violence than Dunham. Dunham's more of a stand on the outside guy, try to box, try to out-volume you. The thing is, like, for example, in the Chiesa fight, it really, okay, yeah, he was landing, the first 3 minutes he was touching him up with leg kicks, but I mean, he was like throwing everything into it. And then towards the end of the first round, Chiesa actually started getting off on the feet. Like, Chiesa actually landed a couple straight lefts, and you could just tell that once this fight hit the second round, that Benny was going to be fucked. And he learned his lesson from it, and Chiesa ended up choking him out. And the thing is, with Dunham, is Benny going to have an advantage on the mat or in the clinch like he has against Vic or Rashid or who else did he fight?
MJ, Tony Martin, Carlos Diego.
Yeah. Is he gonna have an advantage in the clinch like he has against those guys?
Jim Miller.
When I watch Dunham on the mat, man, I mean, Dunham pulls off some slick stuff, man. And I know he got triangled by Cerrone, and hey, it happens. As like we said, sometimes things happen. Cerrone's just the better fighter, but I think this can end up being a tough fight. I do think Beneil will edge it out. But I understand both sides. I feel like if Benny keeps it standing and he does it, if he's efficient with his energy, he could possibly do it. But the thing is, when he engages in a grimy type of fight where he doesn't have as much of an advantage in the clinch, like when he's fighting a Ramsey, a Chiesa, guys that can lean on him, guys that can wear on him, guys that he knows he can't dominate on the mat, those guys have success. And look, I understand I wouldn't even say he's on his way. I think Dunham can still beat a lot of guys. I don't think Dunham can stand with him, but I think if this fight hits the second round and Beneil has exerted so much energy. And another thing about that Edson fight, what I'm worried is that even though, yes, he won the first round, he didn't win the first round by a lot. I mean, he won the first round, but Edson definitely made his presence known. But the thing is, I felt like it wasn't a Mitch Gagnon-Hennon situation, but I felt like it was that Benny literally put everything into keeping up that pace for that first round. Like, I felt like that was like the round of his life. And, that second round, he evidently slowed down and, he shot a sloppy takedown and Edson saw it coming from a mile away. And, Obviously, Dunham isn't going to do that. What Dunham's going to try to do is, when that happens, tie him up and see if we can get him to the ground or beat him in the clinch or start boxing him up from the outside and, getting him to shoot. But I don't think it's going to happen. But I do understand both sides of the betting. I see some people taking Dunham, and I understand it. And I see some people putting big money on Dariush, but I think Dariush will win it 29-28.
Yeah, I feel as if the left kick will be a big weapon in this fight, Shaq.
See, the thing is, it is southpaw versus southpaw, so we know that body kick might not be as open as it is against, like, Vic or MJ or Edson.
MJ is a southpaw.
Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't, the left kick wasn't the left body kick wasn't a weapon in that fight. I think it's gonna have to be the low kick this time. And we'll see, man. But I think it is going to be a super tough fight. I think a lot of people underestimate Dunham, and he's just that vet that can adapt to any situation. Dunham's been in there with the best of the best. I mean, even though he was on that bad little losing streak, I mean, take a look who it was against, man. It was against RDA, Cerrone, Edson Barboza. And I mean, there's no shame in those losses. And I mean, I just think he has a way of... He's one of those guys that have a way of, even though guys have physical advantages over him, he has a way of making it a lot closer in there.
I feel as if the corner that Benny turned will be the difference, but there's only one way to find out. That's why we tune in. So, co-main event of the evening, Fabricio Cavallo Werdum. He's minus 255. The comeback on the Black Beast is plus 215. Now, Shaq, I thought the Black Beast quit the sport 2 months ago.
I mean, he did. I actually picked him in that fight because, it was that typical, heavyweight scenario. Oh, Hunt's done, and then guess what? He's not done. But, yeah, he quit the sport. I mean, I've always known that Black Beast was super overrated. That, I mean, if anyone came ready, that they could get this guy out of here. But guys would just always fall into, they would just get caught. And I mean, it was a different level of guys he was fighting as well. And, Mark Hunt kept his composure and just waited him out until he knew that he could get him out of there. And he got him out of there. But he did quit the sport. He retired. So therefore, I could never take the shot at plus 215. The guy quit the sport the second he lost the fight. And Werdum, I mean, man, I have a theory that Werdum is on his way out because, look, the Stipe fight, he's the champion, and he's defending his title in Brazil, and the guy's making his little fucking face in the fighter introductions, and he's charging forward, and then he gets caught. And, he gets knocked out, loses his belt. Okay. And then, he comes in against Travis, Travis is what we like to refer to. I mean, when's the last time Travis won a fight?
He doesn't win fights.
Exactly. Okay. So, he beats Edmund, Verdi, and trained Travis, and, he doesn't even finish him, but, he beats Travis. And then, he gets in there versus Reem, and, people were saying that, Werdum won the fight. I mean, look, the first round was close. Like when they were saying on the live or on Twitter, everyone was saying Werdum got that first round. We were watching the fight at your house, and me and Mario, our friend Mario, was like, bro, I don't think he won that round. and obviously all three judges didn't think he won that round, and he thought he won the round, but for a vet, he should know that round was up in the air. The second round, Overeem clearly won. In the third round, he rocks him, and then he takes him down. Bad fight IQ. You got to keep striking in that situation. Granted, he is one of the best jiu-jitsu players to ever walk in the octagon, but, bro, you got this guy on ice skates. And, I mean, just from what I've been seeing from him lately, the little Tony Ferguson situation, and I 100% side with Tony on that. I don't care about the gay lesbian shit. I don't give a fuck about that shit. But bro, this ain't your lunch. Like, you're on the undercard, bro. Like, play your position. But I'm actually gonna say Black Beast is gonna get the upset here, man. I think he's gonna knock him out, man. I think Werdum's on his way out. I know Werdum's clearly the better fighter. Werdum is 100 times better. I mean, Werdum's better on the feet. He's better on the mat. He could easily take him down one time, and this could be game, set, match. But I'm hoping Black Beast does this for Houston, man. I'm hoping he gets a knockout.
Well, you know, if we're picking emotionally, I hope he gets it done for Houston as well. And he's just a cool personality, but y'all motherfuckers are crazy acting like Overeem won that fight. You know what I'm saying? Like
Overeem won the first 2 rounds, bro.
Not only did Werdum win the first round, he won the third round 10-8. So, you know, it's one of those situations where it's a clear 29-27, but everyone's on Overeem's dick, and everyone's eating that horse meat, and it is what it is.
He didn't, bro. Overeem landed the cleaner shots in round 1. Verdum didn't win shit, bro. He won the third round. I give him that, but to say he clearly won the first is completely wrong, bro.
Well, he edged the first, and he 10-8'd the third.
He didn't 10-8 shit.
when you drop a man and almost knock him unconscious.
See, if he would have kept striking, but then he took him down and laid on him, and that's it. I mean, yeah, he got rocked, but it's not like.
Yeah, but
after he took him down, the fight was never in danger of being finished.
But bringing up him taking him down and laying on him, you know, that's almost insult to injury. You know, he already knocked him down with a knee. He didn't need to do anything else. I mean, what do you have to do to get a 10-8? He fucked his ass up.
I mean,
Alistair didn't know his own name after the fight.
Alistair weaseled him like he's known for, and he it's his fault. Bro, the first round was close. I understand that Werdum arguably won it, but I actually thought Overeem won it. I thought it was close. I thought Overeem landed the harder shots, and I thought he stole it right at the end. And you know, the second round, Overeem clearly won. And Fabricio needed a finish. I don't think that qualified as a 10-8 in the third, but it is what it is. Yeah,
you know, the UFC agrees with me. That's why they're feeding Overeem to Ngannou. So, actually, this is the co-main event. I almost forgot this fight was on the card. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, he's minus 1250. The comeback on Ray Borg is plus 800. Now, we broke this fight down already, so, you know, it's back to the same question I asked you last time. Should Ray Borg be a plus 800 underdog in any fight?
No, maybe plus 500, but I can't take the shot on Ray Borg. The guy doesn't have his weight situation in order. He doesn't have a nutritionist. I mean, to pull out of that fight the first time, I mean, I'm out of the Ray Borg business as of right now. Like how can you? When's the last time he made weight cleanly before the Formiga fight? The guy misses weight repetitively, and he still doesn't have it under control. I think DJ will get him out of there somewhere in the third or fourth round. I think Borg will put up a fight in the first 2, but eventually DJ will wear on him. His soft midsection will not hold up. And,
soft midsection.
I think.
Has he ever been hurt to the body?
But I mean, the guy, he's cutting mad weight for this man. He's cutting mad weight. He doesn't have a nutritionist. His diet's not in order, man. I don't want to get any part of that. I wouldn't even if it was plus 1,000, I wouldn't take the shot.
Oh, yeah?
100%. I mean, the guy already pulled out of the fight one time.
What about minus 1,200? Plus 1,200.
No, no, because
what number you need
to beat DJ? Everything has to be on point, and Ray Borg does not have everything on point. He's going to be cutting a shit ton of weight. I mean, plus 1,200. That's like playing the fucking lottery. I mean, I'd rather take my chances playing the Powerball.
Yeah, you know, look, I'm a fan of Ray Borg ever since he came to the UFC. One of the best scramblers, not just in the division, but in the UFC. DJ's probably the best scrambler in that division.
No, don't get me wrong. I ain't laying no fucking minus 1,250 or parlaying, you know, DJ inside the distance. Like, I already learned my lesson playing DJ inside the distance against Dotson. I remember I played DJ inside the distance, and I think, was it Felder? Yeah, was that the same night?
Something like that. When
Felder fought Ross Pearson, I think that was the same night, and, you know, neither cashed, and I was very disappointed. But I ain't laying that, man. I mean, I like Borg. I think he has a great future, but I just don't think he's ready yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to find out. You know, Borg rose to the occasion last time against Formiga, the number 3 guy on planet Earth. And, you know, not only did he beat Formiga, you know, most people when they beat Formiga, they catch him and they knock him out. He back-mounted Formiga. One does not simply take the back of Jussier Formiga, but at the same time, kind of like you said, Shaq, in order to beat DJ, you have to have everything in order. And, you know, not having a nutritionist. This time he's doing the nutrition himself. The guy's notorious for missing weight. You know, it's just a recipe for disaster. At the same time, this is MMA. Anything can happen. No way in hell I lay down a minus 1250. I mean, that's not, you know, that's just not what we do here. I'm going to say DJ by decision, but it would be cool to see the upset just because, you know, there's never been another flyweight champ. But at the same time, if DJ wins this fight, he goes out there and he breaks Anderson Silva's record. And clearly, obviously, if he's breaking a record, that's never been done before. So, you know, either way, just sit back and enjoy this one. And yeah, don't parlay DJ inside the distance. I can't tell you how many times I've been burned on that. You know, against Tim Elliott, who's a scrambler. Ray Borg's a scrambler. I'm just going to leave it at that. The main event of the evening. Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. He's minus 230. The comeback on the Motown Phenom is plus 190. Shaq. Tony Ferguson, he's on a 9-fight win streak, I believe.
Yeah, 9-fight.
And looking to make it 10. And if he makes it 10, he will wear UFC championship gold. So, is he about to do it?
Man, this is a tough fight. You know, initially I wanted to bet Kevin Lee, but, you know, I had to pass because, man, when I watched that tape, man, I've always, as you know, Daniel, you know, I've been trying to fade Tony Ferguson. I mean, look, I faded this guy against Lando Vannata, and I almost won. And because, you know, I had thought that Lando could, on the local scene, it looked like Lando could move and strike, and I've always said that if someone can fucking move, strike, and land a shot that he doesn't see coming, they can get Tony out of there. And I truly believe that is the way to beat him. I don't think, when I watch Kevin Lee, look, I think Kevin Lee is strong as an ox. I think he has one of the best top games in the sport, but I still think he's developing, man. Like, when I watch him sometimes, you know, when he gets in trouble on the feet, he shoots these sloppy takedowns, and I don't think he's going to get those against Tony. You know, I think a lot of people are falling victim in this fight to not being fanboys, but not liking either guy. I know a lot of people don't like Kevin Lee, so they're loading up on Tony Ferguson out of emotion, and a lot of people don't like Tony Ferguson, so they're betting Kevin Lee out of emotion. And, you know, I feel like a lot of people are falling into that. I'm not betting on either guy. I'm going to sit back and enjoy. But I do think Tony Ferguson is I'm going to give him a lot of credit, because before I really watch a tape on him, I thought he was super overrated. But the guy is actually, he might be the best lightweight in the world, man. That fight against RDA actually blew my mind, because RDA showed up for that fight 100%, and Tony completely drowned him. Like, I know RDA, you know, he said he fainted, you know, the day before and whatnot, but, bro, the first round, you know, RDA wins by how I think you can beat Tony, which is movement, leg kicks, and landing big overhand shots. And he won the first round. In that second round, Tony just, like, starts slipping punches. I mean, his striking, his defense actually got a lot better in that fight. In the past against, like, Edson Orlando, he'd get tagged with pretty much everything coming. But in that fight, he cleaned it up a lot. And the third round, I think RDA stole it right at the end. But then the fourth and the fifth round, Tony just put it on him in a way that was, like, mind-blowing, man. Just the volume, just the always working, bro. Like, anytime RDA tried to get out by shooting a double, Tony easily stuffed it. Like, it didn't even touch the mat. He just shrugged it off like it was nothing. And I see that happening in this fight. To be honest, I see you know, the exchanges being fairly close, but I think Tony's hands have gotten a lot better. I think his defense has cleaned up a little bit. I still think that when the right guy comes along, he can be knocked out. But I do not see Kevin Lee consistently taking him down. hey, if Kevin gets on top of him and Tony can't get up, then props to Kevin. I can't bet on that happening because I really don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to go with Tony in this one by fourth round submission. I think he's just going to outlast him. I think Kevin tends to find himself in trouble on the feet, like, with the Trinaldo fight, the Mustafayev fight, and, he shoots these takedowns from a little bit far out, and I just think Tony stuffs that shit, man. And but hey, man, I'd be happy to see Kevin Lee pull off the upset, man. I really like Kevin a lot. Like I said earlier, I think he's super marketable, but that doesn't matter. But I'm gonna take Tony in this one.
Yeah, this is an unbelievable fight, and I've been on Tony Ferguson for a lot of his fights leading up to this point. The RDA fight, the Barboza fight, and the Josh Thompson fight, the Abel fight, so many fights. But I'm going to actually go the opposite way here. And it's one of these situations where, I could see Tony Ferguson going out there, establishing that jab, getting funky in there, and knocking out Kevin Lee. We've seen Kevin Lee get knocked out before. I could also see a scenario where, like you mentioned, Kevin Lee does like to shoot a lot of takedowns from very far away, kind of like he did in the Trinaldo fight. And Tony Ferguson, snap down city, could snap down to a Darce. These are possibilities, but I see major improvement in Kevin Lee fight by fight. You go in there and you watch the fight against Leo Santos. Now, let's talk about right before the Leo Santos fight. So going in that fight, he was a minus 500 favorite. Why was he a minus 500 favorite against an undefeated fighter in Leo Santos? The reason was because, look, he was on an unbelievable streak. He was only, 21 to 23 years old. He was just a kid. He showed so much promise. He went out there. He had to take his first loss, his first real loss. The fight with Al Iaquinta, he choked Al Iaquinta unconscious, and the ref didn't call it, and Al came back to life and won the third round. His first real loss was against Leo Santos. And, everyone's got to take that first loss. And I know, Shaq, we thought he was done because he was saying shit like early stoppage. But I think that's just his personality, man, because I'm not going to sit here and act like the kid doesn't work hard. He works hard as fuck. That's why he's in the position he's in. But I challenge everyone to go watch the Leo Santos fight and then go watch the Michael Chiesa fight. It's a night and day completely different guy. His physique is different. His poise inside the octagon is different. His maturity, just everything. It doesn't even look like the same fighter. And in the Chiesa fight, it's one thing to take Chiesa's back, which is obviously a big deal. But, he wasn't just in there, trying to set up the choke and then he found it, got lucky or whatever. His ground and pound was some of the most vicious ground and pound that I've seen in a very long time. I haven't seen ground and pound like that in a while, Shaq, and it was very alarming, and I think that he can finish a lot of fights like that, and obviously I've been on the Tony Ferguson train for a while, but I think this is the kind of guy that can exploit all the holes that Tony Ferguson, all the openings that Tony Ferguson leaves open. For example, you watch the fight with Danny Castillo, and I know he's come a long way since then, and I've actually had to defend him in that fight and the other fights that I've bet on Tony, but here's the thing with that fight. He was, trying to get off on his cocky shit, and then he'd get neutralized. The Eddie Bravo, the Grammy rolls, all that stuff was getting neutralized by Danny Castillo because Danny Castillo didn't give a fuck about anything else but laying on him. A guy like Abel Trujillo, it's like, he just wants to go in there and take your head off. A guy like Josh Thompson, he's cut up in the first 30 seconds and doesn't know where he is. Edson Barboza, he was panicking. But a guy like Kevin Lee, his only goal is to get on top of you. And when he does get on top of you, he's one of the most vicious guys in the UFC. So with Tony being a guy that is comfortable going to his back, and he does want to try a bunch of dumb shit, it works in most of the fights. And hey, if he makes it work here, much respect. But I think that Kevin Lee's the kind of guy that can neutralize that. And when he gets on top, I think he can do some serious damage on Tony Ferguson. So when it was plus 200, look, I'm not sitting here max betting it. I'm not even putting 2 units on it. I just put 1 unit at plus 200. Everyone and their mom is on Tony Ferguson here. So, big Vegas casinos weren't built on everyone being on the same side. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Look, I'm up big for the year. I'm a long-term winner. It's not a big deal. I'm probably going to cash my bets earlier on the card. It is what it is. At plus 200, I have to take the shot to find out if Kevin Lee is the guy to expose the openings and the holes of Tony Ferguson. Because not just the Danny Castillo fight that I mentioned. What about the Lando Vannata fight? I mean, Lando Vannata, he's not even a 500 fighter in the UFC. He has a losing record in the UFC. He dropped Tony Ferguson 1,050 times in that fight. So, and Kevin Lee went out there. He ended the streak of Trinaldo, and it's not just the choke. He rocked him with a head kick. Kevin Lee's not a slouch. I know, once again, he got knocked out by Leo Santos. Do what I said earlier, compare that fight to the Chiesa fight, and also accept the fact that Leo Santos is an undefeated UFC fighter. Leo Santos is no slouch. Leo Santos comes to fight. Leo Santos is experienced. So I don't hold that against Kevin Lee. With all that said, I'm taking the 1-unit shot at plus 200, Shaq.
Yeah, man. I hope you win that shot, but I just when I see Tony losing, I see it by a KO. Like we said, the Vannata, but Kevin Lee strikes nothing like Vannata. Lando, he's got sharp movements, and when I watch Kevin Lee strike, I see him being a little stiff. I don't see his hand. I think he's confident in his hands, but I just don't think his hands are that good right now. I don't think they're bad by any means, but I just don't think his hands are good enough to knock Tony out. But I just think Tony puts like so much pressure on you, man. Like he just puts so much pressure on you to the point where it's so easy to fall into a panic situation. Hey, but if he can get on top of him and finish him, then I hope he does it, because I'm rooting for Kevin Lee here, but I had to go with Tony.
So one prelim that we left out, Marco Psycho Beltran. He's a plus 105 underdog, and Matt Schnell is minus 125. Now, Shaq, before we talk about anything else, Matt Schnell opened minus 190, and action came in on Matt Schnell's opponent, and rightfully so. Look, Matt Schnell is one of these guys that, he looks really good. He looks like he's got a lot of potential. He's crisp out there. He comes to fight. He's exciting. But it's the chin, man. He can't take a solid shot. So with Marco Psycho Beltran, he's the opposite. He's more wild out there. He's crazy. He's reckless. He's a Mexican warrior. He's actually won fights in the UFC. He's been on a 3-fight win streak before. He's more experienced. But he's also prone to not just getting knocked out, to getting tapped out, to getting cut in the middle of fights. It's a very interesting matchup. I could see a scenario where Schnell whoops his ass and then just gets randomly knocked out by a grazing jab. I'm not betting on this fight, especially at a pick'em, but what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, it's funny because I was watching Schnell last night against Rob Font, and it's funny, before the KO, the exchanges were actually close if you actually watch it. Like, Schnell actually, landed a couple left hooks that, stung Rob Font. And, Rob Font's a top 10 bantamweight in my opinion. And, but yeah, like you said, man, Font is actually, not Font, but Schnell is actually very good offensively. It's just, when you tag him, he tends to go out, man. But what I'm looking at this fight, I was telling you about is that under at plus 170, because in Matt Schnell, ever since his third pro fight, all of his fights have ended in under 1.5. Every single last one. I think his record's maybe 10-2, or I'm not exactly sure what his record is, but ever since his third pro fight, all of his fights have ended inside in less than 1.5, and that under 1.5 is plus 170, man, but it's actually some value on it as well. It opened up at plus 130. I think it's gonna cash, but man, I got so much other things going on right now. But I'm interested to see that cashing.
Well, we gotta hit up Kyle Marley for the Big Marley Minute. And joining us now on the Big Marley Minute is Big Marley himself. Big Marley, what's going on?
Not a lot, man. Excited for some fights.
Man, I bet you're excited for some fights, but I bet you're excited for some bigger news. Your wife's due any minute now.
That's correct, man. Today is the due date, so yeah, just waiting waiting for it to happen, and then got a life changer coming.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's before this weekend so I can still see these fights.
Congratulations, brother, and thanks for taking the time out of your day to talk to us during these times.
No problem, buddy. Anything for you.
You're the man. So, dude, let's get right down to business, man, because look, Tom Duquesnoy versus Cody Stamen. This fight is going to be a firecracker. I don't really have a read for where the public's going because I heard a lot of people saying that they were going to pick Cody Stamen. We know that Tom Duquesnoy has a hell of a lot of hype. Firstly, where are they priced? And do you have an opinion on the matchup?
I like this matchup a lot. I think both these guys have some potential. I like Duquesnoy, I think, to win the fight, but the problem is he's $9,100 on DraftKings, and Stamen is towards the bottom at $7,100. So that makes me like Stamen there just to get that value so I can get up to those guys at the top. But the problem is, like I said, I think Duquesnoy wins this fight. So I think what I'm just going to do is have a little bit of exposure to both of these guys. But I think at that price, I don't see how you could put Duquesnoy in your cash games. I think that's more of a GPP play only.
And, two other guys that are for sure going to have a knock are Bobby Green and Lando Vannata. But I'm not sure if it's going to end by knockout or if someone's going to win a decision, if it's going to be back and forth. But either way, are you playing one of these two?
So far, I've been avoiding it with my early builds just because I don't see how it plays out either. I think it'll probably be a fun fight, but I don't see a lot of takedowns happening. So it could be strikes, and that's half a point per strike. So it probably won't add up as much as I would like. So I don't think I'm going to be paying up for Vannata at $8,800. I'd be more likely to just save the money and go with Green in that fight, but I'm probably going to avoid it.
Beneil Dariush is fighting Evan Dunham, man. It's such an interesting matchup because a lot of Beneil Dariush's fights do not go the distance, win or lose. But with Evan Dunham, most of his fights do go the distance. That's why it's kind of hard for me to gauge if Benny's going to finish the fight or not. So do you stay away from a matchup like this? Do you take the underdog Dunham? Or are you riding with the favorite Benny?
I was originally leaning Dunham. I figured he'd probably be in my cash lineup. But then the odds came out, and I got to thinking about it more and more, and I do think Dariush probably wins this fight. I just think that Dunham's probably a good GPP play. If people aren't going to be on him, I don't mind spending the $7,200 on him because I would not be shocked if he won this fight. I just don't see him dominating this fight or scoring a whole bunch of points. And you got to expect Dariush to win it. So I'm probably going to avoid it. But like I said, the last few days I've been leaning more towards Dariush. And if he can finish this fight, like you said, he usually does, then he'll score a lot of points. And I think a lot of people are going to be on those top three guys, so that could be a sneaky play right there playing Dariush. So I don't mind it.
And speaking of a finisher, Walt Harris is on this card too, but are we getting charged up the ass to play him here?
Yeah, he's $9,200 on DraftKings, but I don't mind it, man. I think he gets probably a first-round finish, and that's 90 points for a first-round finish. I'm thinking it's a knockout, so you're going to get the 10 points for the knockdown and however many strikes he throws. So I think he's going to be over 100 points. He's one of my favorite players on the card. I'm not going to have any Godbeer, even though he has an amazing last name. He won't be on any of my lineups. So, yeah, I like Harris a lot.
I've heard a lot of conflicting opinions on Derek Lewis versus Werdum because, look, Derek Lewis, it can be ugly. It doesn't look the prettiest, but he finds a way to win. He's got he's got a lot of the most knockouts in the heavyweight division. And with Werdum, I think he's very underrated. I know he's a favorite in this fight, but Werdum whoops dudes' asses, and I can see him whooping Derek Lewis's ass unless he gets caught. And if he gets caught by the Black Beast, it could be detrimental. Are you playing both guys, or are you leaning away?
I don't know, man. This one's tricky because I do think Werdum's a better fighter all around. So it makes me want to pick him. However, he's $8,700 on DraftKings, and my rule is 10x. So at $8,700, he needs to score more than 87 points for me to really have that value. And I don't know if he can do that, man. He just doesn't. He's not active enough. I don't see him getting that many takedowns over Lewis, so it's probably going to be picking him apart on the outside, which does not score a whole lot of points. So that makes me lean towards Lewis because he's priced at 7,500, and if he wins, he's going to be finishing Werdum most likely, and it will not be hard to pay off that price tag if he wins. So this is a real tricky one. I think Lewis is probably the better GPP play just because he's more likely to hit value if he wins. But like the fights earlier, I think Werdum probably wins this fight, so it makes me not want to pick Lewis.
Look, Schnell and Beltran, they're going to have a knock. Someone's getting finished in this fight. I just don't know who. And, I mean, do you put both guys on separate lineups? Do you stay away? What are you thinking, man?
I'm leaning towards Schnell in this one. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, and I think we probably will in this one. And it's a closely priced fight on DraftKings. He's only $200 more than Beltran. So if I'm picking him to win the fight for sure, I think $8,200 is a fair price. And if he's going to get that finish, then it's going to be paying off that $8,200 price tag as well. So I like Schnell in this one. I don't mind him in cash or GPP, actually.
And, look, I'm betting on Brad Tavares, but, he's not necessarily known for finishing fights. You do just stay away from a fight like this from DraftKings?
Yeah, man, I think it's probably a good bet. I like him to win this fight, but he just does not score enough points in his fights. Let me see here. His last fight, he won, and he got 62 points. The fight before that, he had 53. Going back to the fight he won before that, was only 60. So I don't want that on my lineup. I would rather just bet it like you said, man. You probably got the right way of going about winning money on that fight is just by betting it and not putting him in any lineups.
Last but not least, is there a sleeper in this main event here?
I would. Yeah, I mean, if Ferguson wouldn't be a sleeper, so I know that's not the route you're looking at, I guess. But yeah, I don't mind leaving all in this fight. If he wins, he's for sure paying off that $7,300 price tag. I would not be shocked if he won. I'm kind of hoping everybody's on Ferguson and Lee will be under-owned because then I'll definitely have them in some of my lineups. But my strategy on this fight is to go all in. So if I'm making 10 lineups, I'm going to have 10 lineups with one of these guys in each one of them. So maybe that means 4 Lee, 6 Ferguson. But whoever wins this is for sure going to score probably over 100 points, I'm thinking. And they're both going to pay off that price tag that they're at. So if you like Lee, I think he's almost a must-have because that opens up so much value at the top for you to get in some other favorites. So I don't mind that Lee play at all.
Well, Kyle Marley, that's why you're the Half the Battle DraftKings guy. That's why we have the Big Marley Minute. Follow this man at Big Marley 3. Kyle, any message for the fans before we speak next week?
Hey, good luck, man. If I don't win the tournament, hopefully one of you guys do.
Hey, man, and send my wishes to the old lady, and congratulations to your family. Much love, brother, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Take care.
And there he is, Kyle Marley, killing it again. Last week, he hit a 7K plus DraftKings tournament, so you know why he's the best in the biz, Shaq?
I mean, yeah, Kyle is no slouch. Kyle comes to gamble, and Kyle is experienced.
Indeed. So we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So, Shaq, what is the fight to watch for UFC 216?
Man, the fight to watch, man. I'm gonna say Bobby Green versus Lando Vannata, man. I think if Lando could get this win, which I think he's gonna do, I think that's even though Bobby Green's on a 3-fight losing streak, I think that's a credible win because I mean, look at Bobby's last 3 opponents. Edson Barboza, Dustin Poirier, and Rashid Magomedov. And I mean, if Lando can add his name to the list of the guys that beat him, then that's a big win for him at so young in his career. And his last fight, man, I actually gained a lot of respect for him because that was a straight war they put on. And I'm interested to see if Bobby, with his back against the wall, with all the stuff he has going on in his life, can show up just one last time and put on an old classic Bobby Green performance.
My fight to watch is Beneil Dariush versus Evan Dunham. I mean, anytime Beneil Dariush fights, win or lose, it's going to be an exciting fight. And Evan Dunham, he's one of these rugged, I was going to say journeyman, but he's one of these rugged workmen who, he might get his ass whooped in that first round, but he's still in there in the second and third. And they're going to have a knock, plain and simple. So Beneil Dariush versus Evan Dunham is my fight to watch. Now, Shaq, who's your fighter to watch?
Man, my fighter to watch is going to be Cody Stamen, man. This is a real fight here, man. They put this fight on for a reason because, look, obviously Tom Duquesnoy could be a superstar in Europe if he wins this fight. And, I mean, he kind of already is a superstar. And then, you know, when Cody Stamen's getting comparisons to the number one contender, Jimmy Rivera, I mean, that's serious. I mean, that's the type of potential Sean Shelby sees in him. And, you know, the winner of this fight is gonna move up seriously in the rankings, man. They put this on for a reason, and I think Cody's gonna get the job done. It's gonna be a serious knock, man. Both guys are gonna wobble. Just put it that way. Both guys are gonna get cut, bleed, and somebody's probably gonna get knocked the fuck out, or just be a complete war. But I think Cody Stamen's the fight to watch. Like I said before his fight against Tyrion Ware, there's a reason why, you know, I parlayed a newcomer at minus 270 at that high of a line, because I just saw the guy being completely well-rounded. I didn't see any specific, like, real weakness in his game, and maybe Duquesnoy exposes that, but I don't think so, man. I think Cody's the real deal, and I think he's going to pull off the upset.
Well, your fighter to watch is Cody Stamen. My fighter to watch is Tom, the Fire Kid Duquesnoy. I mean, he's got so much hype behind him. He was the biggest favorite for a UFC debutant in UFC history. I mean, he was like minus 1,200 in his UFC debut. So now that he's got the octagon jitters behind him, he's got a chance to go out here and not just get a win, but defeat a guy in Cody Stamen who's 15-1. And if he can go out there, get this knockout victory, he's going to prove that he's legit, because everyone's been talking about him for a long time. Shaq, people told me that he could beat Tomas Almeida today. So if that's true, he's got to get past Cody Stamen. So for that reason, he is my fighter to watch. Now, Shaq, we did it, man. It's going down this Saturday, UFC 216. Cannot wait. Any message for the fans, bro?
Yeah, man. Just, you know, thanks for all the good tweets I get, the supportive tweets, and last week or the last card, I took a little bit of a hit with that Luke Jumo L, but it is what it is. I always bounce back like a champion, and that's what I'm gonna do. But you know, follow me at MMA Genius 05, and we're gonna win this weekend.
Yes, sir, we are. And, you know, Shaq took a hit, but he's going to bounce back like the 3-time world champion that he is. I had a good weekend. You know, Jumo sucked, but the OSP under cashed thanks to Yushin Okami. You know, when I plan on cashing an under, I'm banking on a miracle. I'm banking on him, you know, on Ovins to catch him with an uppercut. But when Yushin decides to go out there and pull guard in the first 10 seconds and get Von Fluid, you know, I want to take Yushin out to dinner. So thank you very much, Yushin. And the Maestro Dong Young Kim, he came through as well. You know, anytime Gomi fights, please keep fighting. So to all the fans, make sure you follow me on Twitter at BestFightPicks. Go to bestfightpicks.com for the plays. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Shaq and I are about to record the Bellator edition of Half the Battle because Manny Sanchez is about to do work. So until the next time, let's cash these bets.